Alright guys, today we're going to talk about adding and subtracting decimal numbers. So before we start, there are two things that we need to remember. Number one is to always line up the decimals. Okay, always line up those decimal points when we are either adding or subtracting. And if we need to, we can attach zeros to numbers to help us solve our problems correctly. So let's look at some examples here. Alright, our first example, we have 3.7 and we are adding 0.9 to it. First and most important rule here is to line up the decimals as denoted in green. And then we can simply add the numbers together in each column. So we have in our tenths column 7 and we're adding to that 9, which equals 16. So we write down the 6 and then what we're going to do is carry that 1 over to the ones column and then add that 1 to the 3 that's already there, and we would get 4. So 3 plus 7 plus 0.9 would be positive 4.6 as your answer. Our next example has 0.7 and we are taking away 0.548. Okay, and in this case we put 0.7 on top. We have to attach a few zeros here, okay, because our 0.548 has more significant digits than the 0.7, so we can attach zeros after our significant digits end in a decimal. We can attach as many zeros as we like. So when we go to subtract, we don't want to work with 8 minus 0. We don't want to get into a negative number inside of our subtraction. So we're going to come over here and regroup. We're going to regroup the 7 and make that a 6. Bring 10 over to this 0, but then we need to regroup this 0 and make, this 10 and regroup this and make this a 9, so we can bring 10 over here. So we have 10 minus 8, which is 2, and then we have 9 minus 4, which is 5, and 6 minus 5, which is 1, and again, and most important, line up your decimals as again denoted in green, and then bring that down. So 0.7 minus 0.548 is going to leave us with 0.152. Our next example, we have negative 0.86, and we are adding to that a negative 0.513. Again, so first thing, line up your decimals. Okay, 0.86 does not have as many significant digits as 0.513, so we can attach a 0 there. And remember our integer rules. When we have two negatives and we're adding them together, we're going to add them together and then keep the sign in this case. So we're going to end up with a negative answer. So with our attached 0 here, we add 0 and 3 and get 3, 6 and 1 and get 7, 8 and 5 is 13, so we write down the 3 here and we carry the 1 over to the next place column, which in this case is the ones, and then so we end up with 1, when we add these two numbers together, we end up with 1.373. In this case, we have to remember that both of these numbers are actually negative, so we have to bring that down. And so our final answer in this case is negative 1.373. And in this example, we have 1.15 minus 6. So we have a positive 1.15 and we have a negative 6. So we have to find the difference between these two numbers. So in this case, we put the 6 on top. And since whole number 6 does not usually have a decimal after it, we have to attach that as well as attach 2 zeros to fill up the number of spaces that 1.15 has. So when we start off, we need to regroup our 6 and make that a 5, and bring 10 over to the 0 and make that a 10. But then we need to regroup this 10 here and make that a 9, so we could bring 10 over to that 0. And then 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 1 is 8. Again, we lined up our decimals after we attached a decimal to the 6. And then 5 minus 1 is 4. So 6 minus 1.15 is 4.85. But remember, this is a negative 6, and since the 6 is a larger value than the 1.15, our answer is going to be negative. So in total, our answer is going to be negative 4.85. Okay, that's just a rundown of adding and subtracting decimals. We're going to be practicing this in class, and I will see you there. Whoosh!